Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for May 2022. First, we're going to look at the numerology and energy for the collective, which we are all a part of. And then we're going to break it down into the individual life path forecast. So before I get started, of course, this is a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. So in the Northern Hemisphere, May brings flowers, springtime, and 11-2 energy this year. So when we have master level energy in a cycle, we may notice the challenges or obstacles to be a bit more pronounced, but the same can be said of the rewards of this cycle. So think of it like taking an accelerated master's level course. We'll have to put in the effort, but the satisfaction will be worth it. Similar to a 2 cycle, you may notice your experience sort of hasten, and this can help to push us to be much more decisive within our actions and our personal circumstances. Sudden events can occur now that require us to quickly go within, follow our instincts or our intuition, and take the reins within our own experience when we're deciding next steps. So, in doing so, we alleviate the tendency for being influenced by others during this time because there's a sense of urgency present that doesn't support calling multiple friends, weighing the options, reviewing pros and cons. No, you already know what to do. And this energy is assisting you in trusting yourself and the cues of your body and your own inner knowing. So don't miss an opportunity because you don't trust yourself enough to make a decision. This energy can feel almost hectic and exciting, and it can create a tendency for impulsivity. So this is fine if, of course, if it feels right to you and if you're following your own intuition. However, be aware of feeling like you have the need to sort of make a knee-jerk commitment at this time, simply to, rush through the process to get to the conclusion. If it feels aligned, great. But if it feels sort of cloudy and you're not quite sure, and you're still making haste simply to get to the end goal, then you may wish at a later time that you had taken more time. So be patient, be tolerant, and be decisive. All of that will yield positive results during an 11-2 cycle. Legal dealings can come up now to be worked through as well. So financial settlements are possible, such as inheritance or lawsuits of some sort being finalized. Contractual agreements, partnerships can also come to the forefront. And this, of course, includes marriage, divorce, adoption, buying or selling a home, property, or material goods. This 11-2 energy is also beautiful energy for investing time and resources into learning something new or furthering your education in some way. So signing up for a course, going back to school, attending a workshop of some sort or a retreat, as well as traveling to new places and fully immersing yourself within a different culture. All of this is supported under this beautiful 11-2 energy. Throughout May, we could find that we are more sensitive, and this can be a phenomenal time for enhancing our intuitive and psychic abilities. So this can be a very creative, inspirational period. So pay attention to any insights, dreams, and ideas that come flooding in at this time. So chances are, even if you don't take action on these new ideas, these inspirations, you'll see them resurface in some way again, if they're meant to, right? So at this stage, simply write them down and feel into how you want to work with them. Some you may release, and others you may feel compelled to create something much more tangible. This can be a very exciting cycle for this sort of process. So as mentioned, with any master energy comes master level tests and challenges to figure out and to overcome in order to extract the wisdom needed to move forward. So you may see exciting, big, new ideas emerge at this time, but those big new ideas may be coupled with just as big of challenges to overcome in order to achieve whatever this new goal is. So remember, challenges don't always indicate that something isn't meant for us. Sometimes those challenges are actually allies in assisting us to master whatever it is that we're attempting to achieve. So very infrequently is it true that mastering comes easily. It takes effort, persistence, skill, time, trial and error, all of these things, right? So this is going to be a period to keep moving forward despite the challenges to achieve whatever it is that you're working towards. That is, if it still calls to you. So if there is still fire behind you with whatever this is, then go for it. Keep going. You can overcome whatever challenges surface, and ultimately you're meant to extract the wisdom from those challenges. They're not meant to deter you necessarily or throw you off course. Now, of course, if you're still pursuing an old dream that's no longer your dream, but somebody else's, and your intent and motivation is sort of all about ego over true inspiration and desire, then you may continue to feel sort of out of alignment with this goal, and the challenges will become so great that you're only left feeling defeated versus inspired. So there is a difference. This 11-2 energy will assist us in recognizing sort of where we land with that. And, as we move through this journey, whether the goal is still truly ours or whether it's time to be released for a new one to enter. Big energy for May. And again, it's always what we choose to do with this energy that ultimately makes the difference. So when we're working with master level energy, we can anticipate that there will be master level challenges, but again, it's just assisting us in mastering the energy. So let's move on to the individual life path numbers. Life path 22 fours. Okay, so I pulled an animal spirit card for you all, and you got Manatee spirit. And so Manatee's message for you all for May is accept the situation as it is rather than fighting to change it. So definitely a lot coming in for 22s around acceptance this month. There is definitely, with 22s and 4s, there's definitely this energy of feeling the need to try to control every situation. And it's kind of, I think a lot of it stems from the sort of the very practical energy that can sort of embody the 4 and the 22. And it's really about, because 22s and 4s are such hard workers, they're dedicated, they're often very meticulous and organized. They're going to see a project through to the end, and they're going to make sure that it's done accurately and done to perfection if they can type thing. So there's definitely this, it just creates this energy of the need to control the environment as much as possible, which of course can be to the detriment of the individual if they're too in that sort of perfectionist mode or that need for control. So I do think that there's a lot coming up this month, 22s, around acceptance and surrender and just going with the flow as much as possible, which can be incredibly challenging for 22s and 4s. So again, this is just going to give you an opportunity, anything that sort of surfaces that, you may try to control it, but you might see very quickly that you just don't have control over it. This is going to give you the opportunity to sort of flex that muscle and to practice surrendering type thing. So definitely coming in, this is going to be, again, just an opportunity to evaluate those situations where you might want to have the control over the situation, but at the end of the day, you don't. And so it's just learning to really cope with that. And even though it feels uncomfortable, just surrendering to the powers that be, the unseen powers, if need be, to just trust that things will work out the way that they're supposed to. You, of course, have to do your part of, put in the effort, show up and do all the things that, are required of you to, get to whatever it is that you're trying to get to complete whatever the vision is that you're moving towards. But of course, there's going to be aspects that just are out of your control. And so not only about acceptance and surrender to those things, right? And allowing them to flow the way that they need to flow, but also not beating yourself up for those things that might not work out the way that you anticipate or want them to, because you don't have control over them. To realize that if they don't work out, there's a better way for them to work out, and it wasn't meant to be. So don't beat yourself up for those things not working out and for you not being able to control that situation. Do you see what I'm saying? So take responsibility for what is your responsibility, but don't take responsibility for the things that were out of your control. I think there's a greater message to this that could potentially come in for 22s. I do think that, again, not only do 22-4s try to take as much control and responsibility for a situation, it's exactly that. Sometimes we take responsibility for things that just aren't even our responsibility to take on, and then we just create this added pressure that really doesn't need to be there. So as much as possible this month, especially, try to accept the situation, try to find acceptance, try to surrender to, something greater when you just don't have control over it. And I think that you'll find that it makes the journey a little bit more comfortable, even though it's uncomfortable to release the grip type thing and to realize, okay, I don't have control over this. Once we learn how to do that and can recognize, okay, this is my responsibility, this is not my responsibility, this is my, I do have control over this, I do not have control over this. Once we can start to see that very clearly, then it becomes a little bit easier to give up that need for control and to just go with the flow. And I think you'll find that it's about 50-50, right? Like there's going to be quite a few things where we do have some level of control and we do have responsibility for those things. But then there's also going to be just as many things where it's out of our control. We can only do our part and then allow the universe or the higher powers that be to do their part type thing, and to just trust that it will work out the way that it needs to work out. So definitely seeing that energy come in pretty strongly at the beginning of the month. And then again, a little bit towards the end of the month, but definitely at the beginning of the month. There's something here at the beginning of May that I feel like there's like this new endeavor, this new journey, something that's like beckoning you to go on a new path, a new venture, something like that. But there's definitely a lot of potential anxiety around this. There's a lot of self-doubt around this. Basically, it's like you're holding yourself back from going on this journey, whatever this journey is. Now, this can be like a new relationship. This can be like a new job, leaving an old job that's not working anymore, creating your own business. There's, it could be starting a family, whatever the case may be. There is definitely something here around partaking on a new journey, like in going on a new adventure. Let's put it that way. But there's a lot of hesitancy because of something internal, like because of like you holding yourself back type thing. And so the only thing keeping you from going on this journey is you. And I think there's probably going to be some opportunities for you to move through that however you choose to. But this is a journey I think that you're meant to go on, whatever this is. But it's going to take some self-reflection and some contemplation to decide what that looks like for you, what you have control over and what you don't have control over, where you just need to go with the flow and where you actually need to show up and put in some effort to sort of plot out the next steps. So again, it's definitely a journey where you don't know everything about the journey. You don't know everything. You don't have all the answers. You don't have all the information. It's not clear, but you do feel this almost like compulsion to go on this adventure, to go on this journey. So again, start this relationship or start a family or start a new job or leave an old job, whatever it is. You definitely feel the compulsion. You feel pulled to do this. But there's something that's holding you back internally. Of course, that can be like fear or again, self-doubt or, insert whatever story we tell ourselves here. I do think that there's going to be some, well, it's going to be up to you, obviously, to do this, to take the initiation to do this. But there's definitely something here about really taking a closer look at why you're holding yourself back from going on this journey, whatever this is, and to figure out ways to sort of release those restrictions that you're putting on yourself around whatever this is that's holding you back from going on this, again, this new experience, whatever this may be. And I do feel like there's a lot coming in here around the release of control. So again, it can kind of be like this energy around, okay, if I go on this adventure, this journey, this new path, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot I don't have control over. And that can be very unsettling for a 22 and a 4. Very unsettling. But that's the thing too. You just really have to look at the reality of it and kind of look through your past experiences and recognize, there are certain numbers, certain energies, right? Where it's like 2s, let's just say like 4s, 8s, and 1s. That's who I would probably say 1s, 4s, and 8s are really the energies that they're very ambitious energies. They're going to get the job done. They're going to get it done to the best of their ability type thing. So I don't think it's necessarily a situation where it's like you haven't shown up and given your all in the past. If anything, it's probably quite the opposite. And so I think sometimes we shy away from those things when we're like, I don't want to take a chance on this if there's a potential that I will fail, or I don't want to take a chance on this if there's a potential I won't do a great job or whatever. But the reality of the situation is you're always going to give your best. You're always going to show up and give 100% for the most part, right? Like obviously all of these energies, 1, 4, 8, and obviously 22, it's sort of in the nature to do all this. But as you also have the shadow sides of those energies as well that will sort of fall into the opposite polarity. So it just really depends on where you're at in your journey. But my point being, even though you may not have control over everything, you're going to show up. You're going to give your all. You're going to do the best that you can do type thing. Again, it's just sort of innately in the nature of the 22 energy. So don't let something like that hold you back from taking this next step, whatever this next step is. And it's not about being perfect. So take that pressure off, because there really is no perfection. It's just a point of view. So anyway, definitely seeing something here about a new journey, new path, but some hesitancy here. And I think that falls back on you just taking a closer look at why are you sort of shying away from doing whatever this is? And is it something that you can kind of overcome mentally to go ahead and take this leap of faith? And understanding that you will have to give up some level of control on this journey, which of course is an opportunity for expansion and growth and learning, right? So it all works together. Mid-month for you all, there is something here around some kind of new idea, inspiration, communication. It can also be a relationship, something like that. Something coming in from the past to be addressed again, readdressed, right? To be reevaluated, to maybe look at it from a different perspective. I do think that there's something here where you didn't have the full story before, it didn't make sense before, but now it does. So now you can take action. I also think that you may get a little bit of pushback on whatever this is. And so you just have to kind of move through that and do that in a way where you're not making enemies, if possible. But really staying true to what calls to you and really following your intuition. Remember, we're in this 11-2 cycle in May, and so it's all about being very decisive and following your intuition in being decisive, right? So it's coming from a space that feels right for you. So I do feel like if you do that, you may get a little bit of pushback. It may look different than what other people expect it would look or want it to look or whatever. But that's fine, as long as you're staying true to you and you're doing it in a way where it's obviously not causing any harm to others. Then I think that there's a very strong potential for this working out in your favor, whatever this is. Again, it feels like it's got some components coming from the past. So again, it could be some kind of idea or inspiration that came to you previously, and now it's coming back to the surface to really be looked at and to be taken seriously. And again, this totally makes sense with us being in the 11-2 cycle of May, because 11 energy is all about inspired action, inspiration, doing what inspires us, following those big ideas, and doing something with them. So definitely seeing that come in mid-month, but just know you may get a little bit of pushback. Do what you can do and to move forward with also releasing the control and remembering Manatee's message of accept the situation as it is rather than fighting to change it. So that doesn't mean like you give up on what it is that you want to move towards. That just means, of course, you may have to compromise a little bit. You may have to also understand that you may not be able to change other people's minds around whatever this is, but can you still move forward in a way that stays authentic to you and the vision? At the end of the month, I do see that there was some energy here around something that's really been weighing heavily on your mind, something that maybe has been coming sort of in and out of your awareness. And this just, again, sort of the reality may have been a little bit of a molehill and you're creating a mountain out of it in your mind. So I would say also, if that's the case, pay attention to the reality of the situation. Take a closer look at what is actually happening. What is it that you actually have to confront now, and what are your options? And then make decisions from that space, as opposed to holding back from having conversations with people about whatever this is because of the stories that you've created in your head. 9 times out of 10, the stories that we create in our mind about a circumstance or whatever are so much worse than the reality of the situation. Not saying the reality is good or whatever, but typically, we can be very imaginative. And so when the imagination takes over, we can create nightmares in our mind about a situation, and that can prevent us from taking action in a positive way or in a realistic way. And so I think that there's something here that you're building up a story in your head, and you just really need to take a look at the reality of the situation so that you can deconstruct it and, take care of it in a very practical way, which is right up your alley. So definitely pay attention to the stories you're creating in your head versus the reality of the situation, and make your decisions from, again, your intuition and your inner knowing, but also the information that's presented. There is also something at the end of the month for you all that's kind of, again, like a new adventure, new journey. Although I do feel like at the end of the month, there's a lot less like sort of inhibition or stress around or anxiety around this adventure. It feels a lot lighter. Whereas at the beginning of the month, there feels like a lot of fear associated with this new journey, whatever. But I feel like at the end of the month, you've sort of worked through that, and you've sort of come to the consensus that, you're going to release control over the things that you don't have control over, and just trust as you move forward, equipped with whatever it is that you have moving forward, right? So there is definitely a lightness to this new journey at the end of the month, but I do think it's going to take some work on your behalf to, again, release some of those stories in your mind, to release some of the fears that are holding you back from saying yes to whatever this is. But I just feel like at the end of the month, it feels much lighter. So I feel like either circumstances may change to where it just presents in a different kind of tone, to where you feel like it's much easier to say yes to whatever this is. But I would just pay attention to not only the reality of the situation, but also to your inner workings, like the stories in your mind and the fears and stuff that surface, and really focus on working through those this month, so that when the time comes to say yes or be decisive about taking the next steps, that you're able to do that in a much lighter fashion and you don't hold yourself back from it. All right, 22s, I hope May is a beautiful month for you all. Thank you all so much for listening. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.